Oh my God! All right, LG C9 owners, I've got some exciting news for you. I figured out how to play at 4K, 120 hertz on the LG C9 today, sort of. And I'm gonna break that down, how to set it up, how to get it working. But first, we need a little bit of a backstory here. So, when I've been using the LG C9, it's primarily for my PC, and I had the HDMI input set to PC mode. And what I've learned is the whole purpose of PC mode is to have 444 RGB color to make the text look clear and smooth, just like any other PC monitor. That's great, that's a good thing. And that's definitely the best mode to use for desktop use, in my opinion. So me being me, of course, I was messing around, creating custom resolutions, just testing the TV, see what it can and can't do. And I created 4K 120 hertz custom resolution that you could never activate on desktop, okay? Never, under any circumstance. You select it in control panel and it just takes you right back to 60 hertz. But what I did notice is after I created the custom resolution, you could select it in games. And it would tax my GPU as if I was actually rendering 4K resolution, but there wasn't a noticeable jump in clarity in PC mode. I believe the reason for this is since PC mode is designed for RGB 444 color, that when you chroma subsample, that mode just doesn't handle it well. It can create some HDR banding, and since 4K 120 hertz, you have to drop the color information to 420 8-bit, that it just didn't appear well in PC mode and something was off with it. Lately, however, I've been messing around with HDMI console mode. So you take your HDMI port and you label it as a game console, and game consoles use chroma subsampling to give you HDR and such, so it only makes sense that the game console mode would work well with chroma subsampling. So not only is it a better HDR experience when the HDMI port's labeled game console, but when you force 4K 120 hertz in game, it looks beautiful and it works flawlessly. So that's the huge difference there. You got to have your HDMI port set to game console mode. You got to make sure that you go into NVIDIA control panel and set a custom resolution, which I'll show you how to do here. To create a custom resolution in the NVIDIA control panel, you just hit customize down here. Create custom resolution. You select the resolution you want, which is 4K 3840 by 2160, and the refresh rate you want to switch to 120. Okay, that's all you got to do. Hit test. It already exists for me, but for you, the screen should go black for a second and come back and say test worked out. Click to add. You just do that. Also, a little side note here, if you want to run an ultra wide resolution, you can make a great custom resolution in here. If you set that up properly, you can run at ultra wide resolution 2560 by 1080 at 120 hertz, which is really cool for fast paced shooters like Call of Duty, Battlefield, whatever you want. But that does actually work really well. You just have black bars on the top and bottom. Also note here that when I try to go into my custom resolution of 4K with 120 hertz, but in game, when you select it in the settings, in a game like Dying Light, you just have to make sure that if you can't select the actual frame rate, you just have to make sure VSync is off and frame rate's uncapped. We're running right now at 90 FPS, in between 80 and 100 FPS at 4K. And I can confirm this because NVIDIA control panel will actually switch over to my custom resolution, 4K 120 hertz. So I know this because I have two monitors running, and I have the control panel up on my monitor to my left here. And when I change in game to 4K 120 hertz, the resolution actually changes. And I can copy that for a couple different games here. When we quit and go back to the desktop here, see what happens. Boom, back to 60 hertz at the desktop. So you can see that the game makes the change on the control panel. You can't force it, but you can do it from the game. So let's try a game like Resident Evil 2 here and see if we can get 4K 120 running in that. Now keep in mind that because of the bandwidth of HDMI 2.0B, you're not running 4K 120 right now with HDR. Getting 4K 120 hertz is literally the maximum bandwidth of HDMI 2.0B, so you can't fit HDR through there as well. So don't expect to be balling out with HDR unless you drop the refresh to 60 or the resolution to 1440p, which you can still run at 120 hertz in HDR. And both of those look really good. So when we fired it up, the game's running at 60 hertz at 4K. Now let's see if we can switch it to 120. And boom, it's an option right there. Done deal. Now we're running at 4K 120 hertz SDR. And also let me make this change so you can see it happening in the NVIDIA control panel again. So we're at 120 hertz. We're gonna switch it back to 60 in game. Boom, 60 hertz. We're gonna switch it back to 120 in game. So it's clearly working. Now you might be wondering how the game experience is. So I don't even know where I am in this damn game. Let's just fire it up and see if it looks. Yeah, you can tell right away. This is 4K resolution, and we're only running at about 80 FPS right now on max settings, but it is definitely smoother than 60 FPS. I think I'm about to die. That's okay because the game is beautiful. See, a game like this, I would much rather play at 60 hertz or 1440p with HDR enabled, because HDR is a game changer. So, I mean, obviously I'm still waiting with great excitement for next generation GPUs that allow the full bandwidth with HDMI 2.1, where you can do 4K, 120 hertz, full 10-bit color. That's going to be amazing. But right now, for me, this is still really good for SDR games. It's a great experience. So simple steps: create custom resolution in NVIDIA control panel. That allows you to select 4K, 120 hertz in game. So you force it in game, and then it changes it in the control panel after you're in game. As soon as you leave the game, it bounces back to 60 hertz on desktop. No HDR. It's weird because the last I heard about this, LG wasn't going to enable this mode on the C9. They were going to save it for the newer CX series. But I mean, clearly we just made it happen. So if you guys have any questions about this, please let me know. And also let me know what you guys think about your experience with 4K 120 hertz on the LG C9. Guys, I'm Bushwhack18. I'll see you guys in the freaking lobby. Goodbye.
Hold me close till I get up.